Coming home, survive and thrive in homeschooling. This week we're going to look at money and finances. Therefore, I need to start with the disclaimer that just says that this is not financial advice, but I'm sure you realize that. Many homeschoolers are on one main income as a result of their lifestyle decision, and for many, this means watching the dollars closely. I've divided this episode into two segments, earning money and saving money. But first, a quick word about your new career, because it is inseparable from your finances. Homeschooling is a lifestyle, not something that you fit into your life. Accordingly, this is now your new career, and careers need to be invested in, developed, and improved. There are many resources to build your own skills and application to educating your family and being better at whatever you do. If you learn to see it as a career development, taking it seriously becomes clear. Corporations and businesses spend big money and time, which is money, on upskilling their workforce. And this is because it tends to pay the business back. Literally. Think of the biblical principle of reaping what you sow in this context. Choose to borrow or buy books which teach you about household matters, gardening, raising children, psychology, history, finance, and more. There is an interesting verse in the Bible which says to buy wisdom. Choosing carefully what will make you more wise is a good investment. What can I do today or next week, next month, which will bring growth and make me a better Christine than what I was last week or last year? If you were to meet me this time next year, I would still be Christine, but I should be a more mature and improved Christine. I'm also thinking of another fascinating verse which tells me to redeem the time. If you can get this mentally straight, you'll be able to approach finances more strategically. The way you handle money and your attitude to it is what your children see and learn, but you also need to teach them how to budget, the history of money, and how to use it responsibly. It's better that they learn as a child than have to learn the hard way as an adult. Earning money. Your children's book or school time is over sooner each day than in a school setting. But what to fill those hours with? You'll need to balance financial side gigs with your own resource preparing and input and your other household responsibilities. There are many more opportunities to create some income during your homeschool years that weren't available when we were homeschooling, when the internet was in its early days. In more recent times, online shopping and other online businesses have just boomed. This brings opportunities, but balance is everything for you. How are veteran homeschoolers managing this balancing act? Who can you talk to for wisdom, and not just someone that you need to agree with you? I regret spending too much time on a business I co-owned for a few years whilst homeschooling. I remember leaving the house to go to work and remembering I should have been at home with my children and doing what I needed to do around the house. I didn't have the courage to make the changes that I needed to. It wasn't necessarily wrong to be working in the home-based business, but I was out of balance, and worse, I knew it. Listen to wise advice and your instinct. These are the years to raise your children, and you've chosen not to delegate their education. All choices we make have consequences. The time will come when this part of your life is done, and perhaps you can look at returning to an earlier career or retraining for another. Yes, you may have to do without some things, or a change in lifestyle may have to be seriously addressed if finances cannot be addressed adequately. Whatever so-called sacrifices you make now will be worth it. Dear parents listening to me, please trust me on this. You will reap what you have sown in more ways than you can imagine. Go back and listen to my podcast on aha moments. I know homeschool mums with a wide variety of home-based and out-of-home part-time jobs. There are those with skills, such as my beloved knitting, and they design patterns, dye yarn, and some who even raise the animals which provide the wool, and they mostly sell online. Others have jobs out of the home, cleaning or stacking supermarket shelves. I know those who have consulting services, write ebooks, or produce a service which sells their skill in a time arrangement to suit. If you are selling your skills, always remember that what you know is worth something. Never undersell yourself and your time because you think you're not worth it or you're embarrassed to charge. If this is you, get some good advice on how to price and maybe book yourself a counselling session to help you learn to change that mindset. Take a good look around your home. What do you have that you could sell and get some money for? We all have so much stuff. Why don't you turn it into money and invest in some things you need? Saving money. Here are some ideas of how we dealt with it and what we would include now if we were still homeschooling. First, you need a budget for overall money planning. It's vital to know where your money has gone and where it's going next. And knowing is a great stress reliever, even if the figures aren't the best. At least you know. Fly Lady. I discovered the Fly Lady more than 20 years ago, and I still refer to her not just for home organisation skills, but for her ideas on saving money. She was wonderful. More recently, I came across the Minimal Mum, or Mom as it is. Back in our older days, we had the Tightwad Gazette. It's an oldie, but a goodie, and you can find it on the internet or library. In New Zealand, we had Smell of an Oily Rag and The Destitute Gourmet. Both of these were such a help to me. Make your own, or as we say, DIY. Laundry detergent, cleaning gear for around the house, muesli, freezer meals, jam. It might not be cheaper, but picking it is fun, and the jam is better quality than bought jam. Make your own fancy drink mixes and your herb and salt blends. Thinking about meals, what's in your pantry and freezer now? What could you make if you had a tight money week? Plant a garden, start small and increase as you learn. Buy food seasonally, learn to use leftovers and cook from scratch. Buy on special and gradually make a store of items that you can go to when money is tight. Stop buying junk food and eat real food most of the time. A soda stream was a worthwhile purchase for us. Mostly we use it for making sparkling water. Appliances which could be good investments and therefore save you money would include a deep freeze, a juicer and a dehydrator if you have access to regular cheap or free produce, a blender, food processor, sandwich press. We used an electric knife, often mostly to cut our homemade bread and also meat roasts. We have a bread maker. No, I did not make it by hand. And we bought a grain mill years ago because we buy in our own wheat, and that has more than paid for itself. Recently, I was given an air fryer. I'm still thinking about whether it would be a worthwhile investment I could recommend, or another gadget taking up room. So far, it can save some money as it uses less energy than heating the oven. I've also used it to reheat food since I don't have a microwave and it's faster than over a pot with heated water. We had a microwave for years, but I never cooked with it, except for making custard. It was really good for custard. Mostly it was for reheating tea and coffee, or defrosting the meat, which I had forgotten to take out of the freezer. And a few years ago, ours died. We haven't missed it. Activities. Just how many sports does a child need? I've come across families that have several types of sport per child per season. That's not just a money issue, it's a time issue as well, and both of these things need to be considered as to what priority that is in your house. Collect board games and puzzles, and meet with others to combine games. Homeschool resources. In New Zealand we have a government allowance. Perhaps you do where you are too. But remember, you're not paying school fees, and you're making other savings by not being at a state school. Sell on what you don't need anymore, or swap it with others. Another regret I have is giving away some items such as my phonic readers. Oh man, do I regret that. Use what is free first. Buy wisdom. I've already mentioned that. Avoid buying clutter, even if it's cheap. Hesitate before buying curricula. Children's pocket money. In our house, we said, this is our home and we look after it together. Pocket money was for them to learn to save, to choose what to buy for themselves and presents for others. Plan car journeys economically and cut down on impromptu outings. Consider using a clothes dryer sparingly. In New Zealand, this is normal, and most homes hang their washing up outside to dry, and I realise that in some countries it's normal to use a dryer all the time. Clothing. For yourself, sort out a basic wardrobe rather than a cluttered one. Just because an item is on special doesn't mean you need it. You need home clothes and you need going out clothes. Being at home means you don't spend as much money as you would on office-style clothes. But please note I said not as much, not none. You still need to dress like someone is coming to visit. Comfortable, but nice. If you're given clothing, accept it with a smile. We were given so many bags of clothing when the children were young. I think people felt sorry for us. 5 children in New Zealand is a reasonably big family. Even if you have to take most of that clothing to the op shop or put it in your rubbish bin, it's still worth taking. You never know what gems you're going to find in that bag, and we found a few. Most children's clothing is grown out of before being worn out. Learn to knit and sew. Fortunately for you, both are trendy these days. I used to be known as Christine, you know, the one who knits. Now I'm fashionable. Nothing has changed, only the year we live in. Aren't we the lucky ones? It's now fashionable to wear vintage. We used to call it old-fashioned. And pre-loved clothing. It used to be called second-hand or hand-me-downs. Oh, how the worm has turned. These things used to mean you were poor, which you avoided at all costs. No pun intended. Now it's considered virtuous. You can find tutorials on visible mending as opposed to invisible mending. And any mending is worth virtue points, which I hope you can see as tongue-in-cheek. Yes, I have done visible mending on purpose, and Grandma would not have been impressed. A slush fund. No matter how good you are at saving money, you need a slush fund so you can buy ice cream for the kids or go to the movies. All work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. A financial paraphrase could be, all saving and no spending makes one a Scrooge with a dysfunctional attitude to money. Ouch. Remember, it's the love of money and not money which is the root of all evil. We had specific and impromptu times for treats. One day a week it was housework day, and we'd open up a bag of chippies for everyone, or a bottle of fizzy, or share a bar of chocolate. And on a Friday night it was special time, which was one child to one adult as an outing. We would get them a fancy ice cream. If kids have treats too often, then they're not treats anymore. You figure out what works for your family as far as treats go. I would love to hear from you if you have more money-saving ideas I haven't mentioned, and then I can include them in upcoming episodes for the benefit of all. Now, talking about money means that the subject of investing inevitably comes up. And I'm talking about the nitty-gritty of future finances, your saving plans, and what to do with them. Inflation, investments, insurance, speculation, should you buy bullion or crypto, bank freezes, and what are bail-ins? Let me think more about this, and I'll explore it in another episode. In the near future, I will be interviewing Penelope. She and her husband raised their 5 children to be entrepreneurs. I could pop a couple of interesting tales in here, but I don't want to steal her thunder. But it does prompt me to book an appointment time with her as soon as possible. I'm so sure that you'll not only enjoy it, but you'll have new ways to think about training yourself and your family in the important area of finances. My website is up now and will be added to as I choose resources to recommend you. Please see the link in the descriptions below. Please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithms to pick up these podcasts, getting them out to those who will appreciate them. Thank you.